From Maverick flipping the bird while flying upside down to that
Watch the birdie!
legendary pilot power high five.
I feel the need for speed.
Here are 10 weird Top Gun facts you probably never knew. Most people remember Top Gun for its adrenaline-pumping aerial stunts, but not many know that one of those scenes led to a real-life tragedy. During production, acclaimed stunt pilot Art Scholl was flying a Pitts S-2 aircraft, capturing sky footage for the film's dogfights. While performing a complex maneuver over the Pacific Ocean, something went wrong. His final radio message was chilling. "I've got a problem. I've got a real problem." The plane never came back. Despite rescue efforts, both Scholl and the aircraft were lost at sea. His disappearance stunned the cast and crew, especially since Scholl was a highly respected and experienced pilot.
These are two of my favorite old birds.
Production halted out of respect, and the tone on set became far more somber. To honor him, the filmmakers added a brief but heartfelt message in the credits. This film is dedicated to the memory of Art Scholl. But just when the cameras stopped rolling to mourn a tragic loss, the writers uncovered something off-screen that would inspire one of the most iconic characters in the entire film. Charlie Blackwood, the civilian instructor who challenges Maverick's ego and steals his heart, wasn't a fictional invention. She was inspired by a real person, Christine Fox, a brilliant defense analyst who worked closely with the Navy. At the time, Fox was part of the Center for Naval Analyses, a think tank providing insights to the U.S. military. Her specialty? Air combat tactics. She wasn't just crunching numbers, she was helping shape how real Top Gun pilots trained and fought.
I was able to actually form a tactics committee, which was pretty fun, with a senior officer at Top Gun.
When the film's writers visited the actual Top Gun program for research, they met Fox and were struck by how she held her own among elite fighter pilots. Years later, Christine Fox made history when she became the acting Deputy Secretary of Defense, the highest position ever held by a woman in the Pentagon at that time. She wasn't just the inspiration for a love interest. She became one of the most powerful women in Pentagon history. So, how did a school built on her world end up charging pilots for quoting the very movie she helped shape? At the real Navy Fighter Weapons School, better known as Top Gun, there's one rule that surprises almost everyone: no movie quotes allowed. That's right, if you walk into the instructor's lounge and say,
I feel the need for speed.
you'll owe them $5. It's an actual fine, and it's enforced. The movie made the program famous, but the real Top Gun takes its mission seriously. It's about tactics, discipline, and survival, not catchphrases. The instructors at the school admit the film helped recruitment and boosted public interest. But they also roll their eyes at the Hollywood version of their world. The flashy flybys, beach volleyball, and locker room drama? Not exactly what you'll find in a real debrief. At Top Gun, quoting the movie gets you fined. Borrowing real pilots' call signs? That made you famous. Maverick, Iceman, Viper? Those call signs might sound like Hollywood flair, but they weren't pulled from thin air. In fact, many of them came directly from real Navy aviators. Take Viper, for example. In real life, that was the nickname of Rear Admiral Pete Pettigrew, a decorated Vietnam War pilot and actual Top Gun instructor. They didn't make those names up. They borrowed them from legends who lived it. And the funny thing is, the guy who made Maverick iconic, he was almost never cast at all. It's hard to imagine anyone but Tom Cruise riding that Kawasaki Ninja or giving us that cocky line.
Nice, man. I am dangerous.
But believe it or not, Cruise wasn't the studio's first choice for Maverick. Not even close. Producers considered a whole lineup of 1980s stars before settling on Cruise. Matt Modine actually turned down the role because he felt the film glorified war. Other names thrown around? Emilio Estevez, Nicolas Cage, Sean Penn, John Cusack, Patrick Swayze, Tom Hanks, Michael J. Fox. Even Matthew Broderick was in the mix at one point. Tom Cruise nearly missed his shot at Maverick. He wasn't even high on the list. And when they finally strapped him into a real F-14, you can guess what happened next. During production, the cast actually flew in real F-14 Tomcats with Navy pilots. Cruise was determined to make his performance authentic, but his first ride didn't go well. The moment the jet hit 7 Gs, his body was pinned. His stomach flipped, and yep, he threw up. He wasn't the only one. Most of the cast couldn't handle the intense G-forces. It turns out Hollywood actors weren't exactly built for aerial combat, but one surprising exception? Anthony Edwards, who played Goose. He was the only actor who never got sick, staying cool through every twist and turn. While the cast was getting wrecked in the sky, Tony Scott was doing something just as wild, using his own money to turn a warship. While filming aboard the USS Enterprise, Scott wanted to capture a scene with the jet taking off during golden hour. But there was a problem. The ship had already turned, and the lighting was all wrong. When he asked the Navy crew to change course for a better angle, they told him no. It would cost the government $25,000 per hour to adjust direction. So what did Scott do? He wrote a personal check on the spot. Seriously. He pulled out his checkbook and paid $25,000 of his own money to get that sunset shot exactly the way he wanted it. The ship turned, the lighting hit just right, and Scott got his money's worth. He paid $25,000 out of pocket just to catch the light at the perfect angle. Total creative control, right? Not exactly. Just steps away, the script was being rewritten under military supervision, line by line. The Top Gun script, wasn't the original plan. Several major scenes, some emotional, some political, were rewritten or cut altogether during filming. For starters, Goose's death was originally supposed to happen during a mid-air collision with another jet. But the US Navy, which closely collaborated with the filmmakers, had concerns. They didn't want their training exercises portrayed as dangerous or chaotic. So the scene was rewritten to blame equipment failure during a high-speed ejection, a tragedy, but one without fault. Then there was the film's opening act. In early drafts, Maverick and Cougar confront enemy fighters over Cuban airspace, a risky move in Cold War-era storytelling. But that too was dropped in favor of a more neutral setting over international waters. The goal? Keep things exciting without sparking controversy. The military had final say, changing deaths, erasing borders, and steering the story to stay in line. So what happened on set that nearly pushed the studio to fire the director? The beach volleyball scene in Top Gun is pure 80s gold. Oiled-up pilots, slow-motion spikes, and a soundtrack that screams summer.
Let's go!
But behind the scenes, it nearly cost director Tony Scott his job. Originally, the script mentioned the scene in just a few quick lines, describing it as a brief, intense, vicious volleyball game. That's it. But Scott had a different vision. He wanted to shoot it like a music video. Sunset lighting, stylized action, and full competitive energy. So he stretched the scene into a full-blown montage, complete with scoring and swagger. And the studio wasn't thrilled. They thought he was wasting valuable production time on a fluff scene. The head of production even threatened to fire Scott for spending hours shooting what was supposed to be a quick insert. The studio nearly axed the director over a scene they thought was pointless. Turns out, the style he fought for helped spark a merch empire that went way beyond the screen. When Top Gun hit theaters, it didn't just dominate the box office, it launched a full-blown merchandise explosion. One of the most immediate impacts? Ray-Ban aviator sunglasses. After Tom Cruise wore them in the film, sales reportedly jumped by 40%. The movie turned those classic shades into an 80s fashion staple overnight. But it didn't stop at sunglasses. Leather jackets, dog tags, bomber boots, everyone wanted to look like a fighter pilot. The movie's soundtrack also went platinum, selling over 9 million copies with hits like Danger Zone and Take My Breath Away becoming instant radio favorites. And yes, even theme parks got in on the action. At one point, there were Top Gun-themed roller coasters in several amusement parks across the US, including Kings Island and Carowinds. The ride featured jet sound effects, aircraft-style trains, and high-speed inversions, all designed to simulate a fighter pilot experience. It wasn't just a movie, it became a phenomenon. Between real-life tragedy, Pentagon-level rewrites, and jet-fueled egos behind the scenes, Top Gun flew higher than anyone expected. And those were 10 weird facts you probably never knew about Maverick's wild ride. Want more weird facts from behind the cockpit? Tap the screen to keep going and hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next.